guys, welcome to the second installment of Problem Dogg Theory. I mean the third installment. I messed that up a little bit, but the third installment I should say. Today we're going to be talking about the Problem Dogg song titled "My Dad Said That I Can't Hang Out with Problem Dogg Anymore Because They Are Too Cool and Virale." Eventually the title got taken off, and so in later recordings you'll often just hear it in the middle of Penny Pincher as a sort of B section, the middle section. And in the self-titled Problem Dogg album you'll hear it that way. It'll be in the full version of Penny Pincher that exists, and it's in the middle, towards the middle of the album. So anyways, let's take a look here. So you see that it starts off with an open E note that's sliding up to around a minor 10th. The basically minor third plus an octave. The high G up here. And it's mostly droning around that E, the E to G. You might even think of that as a somewhat bluesy thing, you know? You can almost picture it an E pentatonic riff over it. You know, you can just do a bunch of blues stuff over it. Anyways, what makes it very non-bluesy is the guitar part that comes in. The guitar part is just that, and it loops over and over again for a little while. And what's happening here is you have a minor ninth going to a major seventh, back to minor ninth, and then down to minor seventh. So going from the minor ninth to the major seventh is just a stepwise contrary motion. It's going down a half step on the top and up a half step on the bottom. So this B flat and this A constitute the minor ninth, and the B flat goes down to an A here, and then the A on the bottom goes up to a B flat, and that constitutes the major seventh. Both of these intervals are very close to an octave. They're only one half step away from an octave. They're just on opposite ends. The major seventh is one octave smaller than, one half step smaller than an octave, and the minor ninth is one half step greater than an octave. So you can see why they're so close to each other. And then when it goes down to this minor seventh, you're just taking the top note down a minor third, and you're leaving the bottom note the same. And then it loops over. So what you basically end up getting out of this is on the top you're hearing, and on the bottom you're hearing, so it's kind of like a minor Phrygian sound in a way. You can almost hear this you almost hear that sound over it, and all those notes do work with an A Phrygian, even with the bass line being on kind of hanging on E and G. Well, both E and G are in A Phrygian. They would fit within that A minor chord. G would be the minor seventh, and E would be the fifth. And so you just have the fifth below the root there. So you can hear how that's working out. However, in the next part, there's the drums kind of speed up a little bit and they collapse. And so you're playing this riff, and then the drums go, they speed up and collapse, and you move this minor ninth up in minor thirds. And so because it's moving around in minor thirds, okay, you might think of it as minor chords moving up in minor thirds, but really what's being evoked is a diminished tonality. If you remember what diminished is, diminished arpeggio is just a collection of minor thirds. And there's a diminished scale that is being that we're playing in. With the E bass note, you might think of it as a whole half diminished scale. Half whole and whole half are the same scale. It just starts on a different note. For instance, if I am starting on E note in a whole half diminished scale, it would go up a whole step, up a half step, whole step, half step. Sorry. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. For a second there, I almost went into E minor scale. But in this case, that's the scale we're talking about. However, if you start on an E flat, then it would be an E flat half whole scale. Half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. It's the same scale either way. So anyways, this is in that scale, and even this initial riff is within the scale. A good way to look at this is intervallically. You can divide that half whole or whole half diminished scale up into major and minor sevenths intervallically, or major and minor ninths. With major and minor sevenths, if you're starting with the top note as a G on the top note, and you'd harmonize it with an A below, because an A, after all, is the next note in the scale that you're going up to, because remember, it's E whole half. Whole step, half step, whole step. So whole step from G is where you're going up to, and the bottom note, a minor seventh below, is really just that note, an octave down. And so the next note is going to be this note, and you're going to harmonize that a major seventh below, and it's just going to alternate minor, major, sevenths. And then now we're a minor third away from where we started, so it's just going to repeat. The whole pattern repeats. It just keeps repeating. And the same thing with minor and major ninths. You are starting off with, in the key that we're currently in, you're starting off with the minor ninth right here. So G on top and F sharp on bottom, and then you go up to major ninth, and then it repeats. Minor ninth, major ninth, minor ninth, major ninth, minor ninth, major ninth, minor ninth, major ninth. So, you know, say you're kind of improvising and you're you can kind of use that to your advantage, and it's kind of a fresher way of approaching it. You can also use a, you know, then the harmonized sevenths as well. Harmonized ninths and sevenths are a good way of approaching intervallic playing around with the that scale. Also, it's a fresher way of approaching it than just doing straight diminished chords. So, you know, you might hear a diminished chord's used, and it's just... which is nice, but, you know, this is another way of approaching it. You can these intervals are basically kind of utilizing that idea. So you might be wondering, first of all, are there any other ways to split up that scale intervallically? There are tons of other ways, first of all. I like to use triads a lot with a diminished octatonic scale. The octatonic scale just meaning it's an 8-note scale. It's a scale we're just playing. Sometimes it's called octatonic scale, sometimes it's half whole or whole half. It's all the same, used to connote the same thing. So triads, major and minor triads, are a good way of approaching it. I mean, there's just a start. Like, say you're in a E whole half. It's still the same scale we're playing, but it's really, now we're just focusing on the F sharp, and it's F sharp half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole. So you could do F sharp major triad, da da da, and then C major triad. That's just a tritone up, and then you can repeat. And so that's a way to kind of start getting into looking at triadically. But then you also have simultaneously the A major triad, and you also have the E flat major triad. So you might just mix it up a bit. That's a good way of looking at it too, and that's just with major triads. You can do the same with minor triads. So there are a lot of things you can do with this scale, and if you're wondering about conventional, secondly, about conventional music, how can you fit this in more conventional music? Well, let's say a 2-5-1 progression is very common in jazz, it's a very traditional thing. Say in the key of G, a major 2-5-1 would be A minor to D dominant to G major. Well, over that D chord, that D dominant chord, which is the tension tone, you can use like a flat half whole diminished scale. So you say kind of see how that works. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that lesson, and till the next time, I will see you later.